Hey, what's up, guys? Kalamazi here. I'm gonna say I'm a little tired right now, but I have a good reason. We got into the very first wave of Shadowlands Alpha invites. Today, I want to talk to you guys a decent bit, actually a lot, about certain spells and abilities which we've reviewed over the last 2 or 3 days on the channel, but now that we actually have them firsthand, subtle little interactions with these abilities, how they actually look and perform in game, and where I think each spec is just overall as a whole heading out of the very first day of Shadowlands Alpha. Once again, I do stream on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week. I'll put a link to my Twitch somewhere here down below. If you want to swing by, watch any of my Shadowlands Alpha testing, prog, raid testing, everything else through Alpha, through Beta, into actual Shadowlands launch, feel free to do so. All my wiki auras, profiles, add-ons are there for you as for free as well. Feel free to swing by if you have any questions. Feel free to drop a follow if you like. Anyways, let's get right into this because we have a lot to talk about. Alright, so what I want to do here is go over Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction, mainly looking at the talents that have changed or new talents we've received in general, and the abilities that have changed or might have changed a bit even though they were reviewed a few days ago in the class spell review that Blizzard put out from then, or have some subtle interactions which we haven't actually seen. So in the 15 row here, Nightfall, Drain Soul, and Deathbolt. Note I said Drain Soul. Drain Soul still is indeed a talent in Shadowlands, which means Shadowbolt is still the filler for Affliction, unfortunately. Not much has really changed here. I believe Drain Soul received a minor damage buff in the class changes a day or two ago, but everything's still the same here that we currently have in BFA. The 25 row, we have Writhe and Agony, Absolute Corruption, Siphon Life. The change here, Writhe and Agony now stacks to 18. Currently in BFA, it stacks to 15, and I believe in previous expansions it was like 20. There's some reason 20 sticks out in my head. But regardless, those 3 extra stacks were added on, probably to make it a bit more competitive with Siphon Life or some kind of hybrid build, because most of the time we take Absolute Corruption or Siphon Life. So Writhe and Agony does indeed now stack to 18 stacks instead of 15. 30 row, nothing changed here. A 35 row, Sow the Seeds has been reverted in a sense to the way it was in Legion, where it implants 3 total seeds into your target, 2 additional seeds, this tooltip says here. The unfortunate part is that this is still bugged. Well, this is bugged, I should say, in Shadowlands Alpha currently. It's still only implanting 2 total seeds and not 3. Not a big deal. We know how it works, just needs to be fixed. Singularity is the same. I will say there is a subtle interaction. Not even really subtle. There's actually a pretty big interaction between Vile Taint and Malefic Rapture, which is our new Soul Shard spender, which I'll get to in a little bit here. But baseline Vile Taint is the exact same it is in BFA. 40 row here, the change to Dark Fury, which I talked about a few days ago in the actual class change notes, they added a 2-yard radius onto Shadow Fury. So you can see here, I'll actually take Mortal Coil here for a second and swap back. The actual there is a noticeable range on Shadow Fury here when you take Dark Fury, a difference, but it's in the end it's not really super impactful. You can see like it sort of fills up most of this circle here as a whole. I'll pop Dark Fury on. It's a little larger. There's no new visual effect, I don't believe. Everything's basically the same. It's still like the random demon in the center of the floor. There's no DPS difference. It doesn't do any more damage. It's basically the same thing with a slightly larger radius. So most of the time it really shouldn't matter, but it might in certain spots. The new ability here, which is universal across all 3 specs, is called Tongue-Tied. Now this replaces Demonic Circle because Demonic Circle has gone baseline for all 3 Warlock specs, thank God. That's back to normal. Tongue-Tied is a passive and says, spell cast afflicted by Curse of Tongues, negate healing on the caster. Absorbing the next 0, there still needs to be a value put in here, potentially. Healing received for up to 6 seconds. So the wording here is really confusing. It's changed a few times from the spell summary 2 days ago to now. They didn't use the word absorb in the spell summary 2 days ago. They used the word seal, and there's a difference to me between seal and absorb. Absorb makes me think, hey, it's an absorb. It's like a maledict. It's an absorb. You heal through it and you break it and you can heal them again. Seal makes me think it's like a paladin's bubble. You're not breaking that seal. You can heal them for 1 or 1 billion. It's not breaking that seal until the dot falls. So we know now that it is indeed an absorb. It seems to be based, the absorb size seems to be based off the spells that the actual target that has Curse of Tongues on it cast while under the effect. It's a little odd. I haven't really had much time to play with it. We haven't really done many duels or things like that, but it does seem powerful. I'm going to be honest. Curse of Tongues, I have it. Let me see if we can pull up Tongues here. There's 3 different spell books now here: General, Warlock, and Affliction. So it makes a bit of a headache initially, but Curse of Tongues, and for those of you who don't know, instant 40-yard range, forces the target to speak in demonic, increasing the cast time of all spells by 30 for 30 seconds. So there is the 6-second interaction here. There's a pretty decent chance this could be pretty impactful in arenas. I haven't really tested it myself, like I said, but I'm actually excited about this for arenas, just for other things in general. It seems really fun to play with, not really play against, but we'll see. 45 row and 50 row, that sounds weird to say. Nothing's really changed here. Haunt, Shadows Embrace, everything's the same. And I say 45, 50 because we have been squished down. 50 is the baseline level we get when we log on. Our 120 characters become 50, and we level to 60 in the end. So now this is actually a character copy, a template of the generic template you're given when you log on. I actually had my Warlock from live, which I believe was like 145 or so eye level in full Mythic Ny'alotha gear, copied over, but I can't log on him anymore. It's a long story. Blizzard got rid of the character copy feature pretty quickly. I don't think it was supposed to be around when Alpha went live, so I can't get on him anymore. It's a long story, but yeah. Okay, now as far as Afflictions abilities go, like I said, there are a few things that have changed and really weren't talked about a whole lot, or were, I guess, misinterpreted from the class changes we got a few days ago for Affliction. So let's talk about this. We do indeed still have Dark Lair. We do indeed still have Dark Soul. Nothing's really changed here toolkit-wise, barring getting Recklessness, Tongues, Weakness, and Doom, which is across every spec. I will say we tested this a bit. THE and I did. He hung out on most of my stream today. Recklessness and Weakness can be applied to bosses. So it does indeed seem that you will probably want at least 2 Warlocks in the raid for these utility curses. We'll see how that plays out. But what I more so want to talk about today, if I can find it in the spellbook here, is the change to Unstable Affliction. Unstable Affliction no longer costs a Soul Shard. The duration has been increased to 8 seconds instead of like whatever it is now. I think it might even be a little longer. I'll have to look into that here a bit. It seems like it's longer than 8 seconds, but regardless, it does still have the 10% damage modifier on it. If the spell is the same thing, I want you to focus in on that limit 1 there. Limit did win the race of the world first. Not what I'm getting at, though. Limit 1. It is not just limited to 1 UA per target. The limit means you can have 1 UA active at a time on any amount of mobs in a pool. If you have 8 mobs in that pool, you can have 1 Unstable Affliction rolling on 1 target. It no longer stacks. You have 1 UA target in there. If you try to, like, here, watch this. If you try to roll an Unstable Affliction on, like, first mob, watch me try and roll on this one here. It's gone. It swaps back and forth. You can only have 1 rolling all the time. That's it. I'm not really sure. It seems like this probably is an intended change, because limit 1 on the actual spell tooltip does sort of imply that they want you to only have 1 active at a time. I'm not really sure if I like this change. I've actually heard a lot of people say it's exciting, they like it, they enjoy it. I don't really know how I feel about it. I think it really, really, really devalues our Dark Lair cooldown, because most of our damage is dealt within our Dark Lair window. And yes, we have Malefic Rapture, which we'll get to in a minute here, but most of our damage is dealt in our Dark Lair window. And a lot of that is from stacking 5 Unstable Afflictions, hitting your Dark Lair, and hitting a Death Bolt, which also deals more damage because you have 5 Unstable Afflictions rolling. Even in cleave-based scenarios and Mythic Plus, multi-target pulls, you can get your two UAs rolling on 1 target for your Cascading Calamity procs, whatever, which won't be as relevant in Shadowlands, but you can roll multiple UAs on other targets for that bonus 10% damage amp, and then Dark Lair. You can't do that anymore. Dark Lair has lost a tremendous amount of value for Affliction with this change. In the end, I feel like it probably is intended. I sort of hope it's not, but if it is what it is. It almost makes me wonder at this point if Dark Lair is even intended to be in our toolkit, just because of how much counter synergy, and not counter synergy, it's nowhere near as good as it used to be. It seems like a very, very subpar cooldown. It reminds me of when people ask, why aren't you playing VOP Major as Affliction when VOP first came out? Because I'm going to extend 2 dots. I'm going to extend an Agony and a Corruption, or like a Siphon Life, and maybe 1 UA. It's nowhere near as impactful, even when used on CD. That's the issue. So we'll see where that goes. It's interesting, but long term, I'm sort of wondering if Dark Lair is even supposed to be a part of our toolkit later on. I will say they did talk about an ability brief, which we don't have in game here now, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. It was called Rack, I believe, in the class spell changes 2 days ago, which increased the duration or the rate at which your dots ticked, I believe. I sort of have a feeling that's supposed to be in game somewhere, and it's just not here yet. They removed it from the patch notes because it wasn't in the first build. I'm not really sure, but we'll see. I will say here as well, though, the main ability that we have for spending soul shards as Affliction now is called Malefic Rapture. 1 soul shard, 1.5 second cast time affected by haste and things. Your damaging periodic effects erupt, causing 273 shadow damage per effect, meaning per dot. So when I read this initially, I thought of it as like a Shadow Priest entering void form kind of thing, right? The thing here that I want you to keep in mind or take into account is that it does not matter if the targets have, if one target has an agony on it for 1 second left and the other target has an agony you just applied to it for 18 seconds, however long it is, it will deal the same amount of damage to both targets when cast. It only checks damage based, I guess, dots. It checks for dots. It doesn't check for like remaining duration. It doesn't have any like death bolt damage factoring like that in there. It's just, hey, how many dots does this have? Cool, it deals 250, 500, 750, give or take. I'm rounding a bit, but yeah, there you go. Depending how many dots are active. And the cool thing is, there doesn't really appear to be a range on it. We tested earlier with using a demonic gateway and things. I had one of these glimmerflies next to me and one way back here, and it was hitting both of them, targeting the one near me. It's pretty impactful. I'll go pull this pack here briefly. Like, I'm not going to dark layer this, but normally opening up in Mythic Plus, something like that, you typically would go in, like, pop your Dark Soul, but mainly cast your Seed of Corruption, like, pop this with a Haunt, get your UAs rolling, UA, or get your Agonies rolling, I'm sorry. You roll like a UA, and just spam Rapture. Or just spam it, and you can see damage event there. They die pretty quickly, but that's basically it. It gives Aff that sort of burst-esque damage that it's sort of missing right now. You obviously still have to have your agonies ramp up like higher and things to get more value, but let's see, double dots here, double dots, there we go, and just start spamming Rapture. There you go. See, damage, and I guess damage there. So now it does directly compete with Seed of Corruption with Sow the Seeds to a certain extent. There is going to be a threshold. I believe it's probably going to be like 3 targets or 3 dots on each target where you want to spam Rapture versus Seed of Corruption until you want to refresh your Corruption. And it will be based off of other things too, scaling, things like that. So there's nothing set in stone. But even when we were doing single target bosses or single target rares earlier, Malefic Rapture was dealing a good bit of our damage, even just spamming it single target wise, because in your Dark Lair window, technically, I mean, you have a lot of dots. You have your Agony, Siphon Life, Corruption, Singularity, Unstable Affliction. I mean, like, your Haunt is there. Am I forgetting anything else here? Oh, Scouring Tide. You have like 6-7 dots extended by your Dark Lair, so it'll deal a good bit of damage. It's hitting for what? I guess 2k or so per cast. So yeah, it's interesting. I do want to mention here briefly as well, Scouring Tithe is the actual Bastion Kyrian-based Covenant ability. This currently is extended by our Dark Lair. Like, I don't know if this is intended or not. It is a dot. We've had similar dots before not be extended by this. I'll apply this here. 17 seconds. 23. It's affected by our Dark Lair. Now, I'm not sure if this is totally intended or not, but it will buff our Dark Lair's baseline I-beam damage in addition to giving us just an extension on the dot. So, and you might say, well, okay, it's sort of counterproductive with the dot. It's not really. Unlike single target bosses or bosses in general, you're going to be casting Scouring Tithe anyways. Doesn't make a big difference. Not a big deal. The I-beam damage is relevant. The one final thing that I do want to talk about for Affliction here is that I did mention Vile Taint. All right. Now, this ability, I actually think Vile Taint's pretty good in plus right now, especially on fortified weeks if you're playing Aff and Keys on live, which is probably an issue in the first place, but regardless. Vile Taint. The difference between Phantom Singularity and Vile Taint. Vile Taint is a placed, is a ground, like, it's a placed effect on the ground, similar to Shadow Fury. This is Vile Taint right here. You place it, and it hits all the mobs within said circle. Said placed effect. Phantom Singularity is a spell you put on one target and it cleaves onto them. It does not apply dots to the targets surrounding the one with your Singularity on it. Vile Taint does. So I think you guys are sort of following like what I'm saying here. Let's grab this thing, and we'll grab one for the road. Why not bring him over here too? We'll Vile Taint this. All have 1 dot rolling on them. All have 2 dots rolling on them. We'll seed them. Why not? And you'll spam your Rapture. The Vile Taint dots count towards your Rapture. 1600 crit, 800 crit. The Vile Taint dot counts towards your Malefic Rapture damage. So being able to pre-cast your Seed of Corruption, going in, Vile Taint, pop the Seed, Agony, spam Malefic Rapture, it actually gives you a pretty decent damage, like burst damage profile for multi-target pulls. In the end, like, we sort of have to wait and see how it is comparatively to other classes, and you do still sort of suffer from the ramp-up time on Agony and things. But it's powerful. It's pretty powerful. I imagine it probably is intended to work like that. Excuse me, with Malefic Rapture, I'm sorry, but it's pretty cool. I like it. It's a subtle little interaction we hadn't seen initially. THG thought of it. Yeah, it's a subtle little interaction. It's actually really cool. So I think that might be enough to push it past Phantom Singularity in general. If like a build like this went live in Mythic Plus, but let's be honest, we probably have 6-7 months minimum of alpha and beta. But it's really cool, and I'm going to be running dungeons in alpha and beta. And guess what? This is a build that I am certainly going to try out because Malefic Rapture, it's pretty awesome, and Vile Taint, it's pretty vile. We'll give it a shot. All right, now if we're talking destruction, I'm gonna be honest here. Destro and Demo really have not gotten much yet. I want to emphasize again that there is a lot of time left in Alpha and even Beta. So there's probably going to be some changes here. What you see on retail is more or less what you get with Destro and Demo right now. I will say that we do have Tongue-Tied here for Destro, which replaces Demonic Circle. But besides that, there's not really a whole lot else here. Cataclysm is not enemy capped, whatever they're calling it, for like the 5/8 scaling on abilities. It's not capped. Neither is Rain of Fire. There's that. Fire and Brimstone did get the extra like ability generation, shard generation clause to whatever. It doesn't matter. It's whatever. It needs a damage buff. So for the most part here, Destro is pretty much the same. We do have Tongue-Tied, like I said. Same with our Curse of Tongues as Aff, and we'll see as Demo here in a little bit. I will say the one change here that I sort of missed in the notes yesterday. There's corruption on my bars here as destruction. But look at the tooltip. It corrupts the target, causing 492 shadow damage or 14 seconds, whatever. The damage is semi-irrelevant, right? There's a 2-second cast time on here. Corruption is now baseline for Demonology, Destruction, and Affliction. However, Affliction is the only spec that has an instant cast. Demo and Destro have a 2-second cast with haste modifying it to 1.8 or so. It's not bad. Like, I haven't run the math on the damage, if it's even worthwhile to keep up and stuff. I don't really know. Don't ask me yet. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'll probably run it tonight, to be honest, and try and get back to you in the comment section. But the thing that I sort of would like to see here is some kind of resource generation. I know that it doesn't work that way for Affliction, so it's sort of like a reach, but even if it ends up being not really where you want to be numerically damage-wise, seeing like every time it ticks you get like 1/10 of a soul shard or, you know, 1/5 of a soul shard, that would have been pretty cool. There's still plenty of time for it and things, but as a whole, I don't really know if it's even going to be super impactful. I don't believe much else really changed in the spell book here either. Everything is pretty much the same. You do have Doom, Recklessness, Tongues, Weakness. It's pretty much it, to be honest. Not a whole lot's changed. Oh, Dark Fury is the same, but Destro right now as a whole, how it feels, about the same as live. It feels like playing Destro at the start of an expansion. Every spec feels different. It feels slower at the start of an expansion because you're lacking secondary stats and things. There's no Flashpoint. There's no Rolling Havoc. Maybe we do end up seeing some Azrael traits transformed into talents, which I'll get to in a minute here for Demonology, and I pray they actually do. But as of this point, Destruction pretty much feels the same. You can't squeeze as many spells into a Havoc window. It happens. Lower haste, things like that. It feels like Destro, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Destro really isn't changing a whole lot. I think as overall, Destro's toolkit is fine. It's solid. I would like Fire and Brimstone baseline or some kind of other form of AoE, but for the most part, I think it's fine. I do expect to see some Destro changes at some point too. I want to sort of see if they actually keep Supremacy and Infernal around with that 30-second big damage window. I don't know if they're very happy with that playstyle. I'm not personally happy with that playstyle, being massive damage every 2 minutes, 3 minutes in Shadowlands, and then your damage is mediocre besides that, but maybe that's just the way they want to move the spec forward. I do expect some changes to Destro, most likely. It's probably just one of the specs they haven't necessarily gotten around to. If that's the case, it would follow suit with most alpha and betas. Warlocks seem to get changes later on, like legitimately into alpha and beta. But we'll see. For the most part, Destro feels the same as live, just a bit slower because of it being, you know, a template character and a new expansion. All right, now when it comes to Demonology, actually, let me get my pet out first here. Hold on. Took a while. All memes aside, when it comes to Demonology, it's sort of in a similar place to Destruction. In case you missed that, there, all pet summons are now 6 seconds long instead of 2.5. I don't really know as to why. I'd like to hear the thought process behind that, but regardless, that's currently where we are with that. As far as Demonology goes, not like a whole lot has really changed here either. As you can see, we do have a new talent in this row. It's called Improved Curse of Doom. Everything's the same. Dark Fury is different. The increased radius and tongue tied is the same as we've seen too with Curse of Tongues. The only change we have here is Improved Curse of Doom. Curse of Doom, Recklessness, Weakness, and Tongues. They're character wide for every single spec, right? Demonology is the only spec that has Improved Curse of Doom. It's a passive. Curse of Doom now deals an additional 100% damage. The period is reduced by 50, so mainly like the duration is reduced by 50, which is good for us. And Doom Guards summoned by Curse of Doom are automatically enslaved. Now, it's been a while since we've even played with Doom, Curse of Doom, seen Ritual of Doom. There's a million different Dooms, and they're always normally like half of a headache. So let's talk about Doom here a bit. Doom by itself, let's swap out of Improved Curse of Doom, right? It's a baseline spell, baseline dot, that is active for 53 seconds, essentially. If Doom kills the target, there is a 5% chance to summon an uncontrolled Doom Guard to fight for 25 seconds. He's an uncaged animal. He's a wild animal. Improved Curse of Doom cuts that in half. It's 26.4 seconds. Doubles the damage. And it actually says uncontrolled Doom Guard here in the tooltip. I guess it hasn't changed yet, but it will be automatically enslaved. If you don't have Improved Curse of Doom, so you're playing Demonic Calling or whatever, and your Doom... It's a headache because... Doom, for the entire extent of BFA, has been bugged. There is no way to summon a Doom Guard. It is bugged. It will not summon you a Doom Guard. Let's say they fix that, though, for Shadowlands, right? It's frustrating because Doom has to be the ability. See, it's worded if Doom kills the target. Doom has to land the killing blow on the target. Seeing as how Doom is 53 seconds long, and even with Improved Curse, 26.7 or whatever it was, like... there is such a low chance that it is the killing blow on a target if you're just straight up tossing it up there and questing. Mobs don't even live that long questing. Let's say in a dungeon, like, I mean, you're not going to be playing Improved Curse of Doom in a dungeon anyways, but let's say for whatever reason you are. It is so insanely hard to land a killing... It's hard to land a killing blow on a mob in a Mythic Plus dungeon anyways, because there's 4 or 5 people fighting over the killing blow. They want to kill the pack fast and move on. Having you get the killing blow and have it being Doom, the dot that ticks one time over its entire duration, whether it's a minute or 30 seconds, be that, it is so insanely hard to time that and get that to work. And then on top of that, if it does, you have a 5% chance of summoning a Doom Guard. That isn't even working currently. If it was working, I mean, it's still, even if it was working, it is so insanely hard to line that up. Honestly, you probably have a better chance of winning the lottery. I'm being truthful. Like, maybe not the big one, but like, a decent one. The odds are so astronomically low that is going to be the damage event that kills the mob in a party or a raid, because you're probably only going to play Doom. Like, I mean, you're going to apply Curse of Doom, but if you're not one of the Recklessness or Weakness Warlocks applying curses and, you know, debuffs and things, but you're not going to get Doom value really unless you're on a boss in a dungeon, and if the boss dies, well, okay, then move on, it's fine. In a raid, like... and the boss is probably not going to die. If you land the killing blow on a boss, it's whatever. On ads, like, even if it's ads on a boss, it's so hard to time Doom being the final damage-based event that kills that. It's just too hard. It's not going to happen. So the Doom Guard here is mostly irrelevant. I'd like to see Improved Curse of Doom make it so that, like, maybe Doom still stays at 52 seconds or whatever. Or, I don't know. You need to have... it's just tough. I don't want it to be like whenever Doom deals damage, you have... If they change it to, like, if Doom deals damage, you have a 1% chance to summon a Doom Guard that's enslaved, I think that'd be a lot better, because Doom's going to deal damage in a raid. If you play Improved Curse of Doom, even in Mythic Plus, it'll deal damage from time to time, maybe. Maybe, let's be honest. With Haste, at some point, it might be low enough outside of bosses. But if it had, like, a 1% chance whenever it deals damage, which is only one time, it only deals damage once, to summon a Doom Guard... that when you have Improved Curse of Doom that's automatically enslaved, it makes it so much better. It really does. Because, I mean, like, I don't know the numerical value of, like Sim-wise versus Improved Curse of Doom versus Calling or whatever, but even if, like, it's cool RNG, and if it's automatically enslaved, it's pretty cool. I like it. I know Doom, it's been this way for a while. I actually would be a big proponent of a change like that. You don't have to make Doom take multiple times. Just make it tick once, but have a small 1% chance to summon a Doomguard whenever it ticks. Because let's be honest here, landing the killing blow on a mob is never going to happen. Like, even if it was working in BFA, you probably wouldn't see it. You might see like 1 or 2 clips in a raid at some point, sometime, like of one spawning. The chance of it happening is so incredibly low in a raid. I mean, it's not gonna happen. But regardless, it's cool. Like, I like it. I don't want you to think I'm bashing it. Like, I don't. It's cool. It's a cool talent. I just wish it was a bit more relevant if we actually could proc a Doomguard. But regardless, this is a change. We got the Demonology. Tongue-Tied's the same. Everything else is basically the same as we have on live at this point. Toolkit wise, we do once again see Corruption here with a 1.8 second cast time. No shard generation like that, so it's basically just Corruption. Spellbook wise, the 4 curses are here. Everything is pretty much the same here as well. The thing that I want to talk about with Demonology here, and this is not going to be some half-hour rant about it. Out of Affliction, Destruction, and Demonology, I played all 3 specs on stream today. We're streaming for about 10 hours. Multiple times I played all 3 specs. Demonology, hands down, we're just going to go right into a Tyrant here with 0 shards. Demonology, watch my shards here. Demonology feels really bad without Baleful Invocation. It is out of the 3 specs, the spec that feels the worst currently in Shadowlands. I don't know necessarily where. I have a few ideas where you could tie in Baleful Invocation. THD suggested tying it in place of like Inner Demons because they both generate imps, resources, something like that. I mean, we've had Soul Conduit around for a while. Let's be honest, it's a boring talent. It's a set it and forget it, boring kind of talent. I really, really hope. I mean, I'd love them to tie it baseline into our Tyrant, but we could replace Power Siphon. We could replace from the Shadows. I really, really hope that they find some way to tie Baleful Invocation into Demonology, because without Baleful, it just feels really slow. It feels clunky. It doesn't feel fluent, and it feels like the spec needs something. If you remember back to like 8.0 and things before we had Baleful Invocation, before it replaced Forbidden Knowledge, the spec felt clunky. Baleful gives you those shards once your Tyrant sucks up all the imps to go right into a Hand of Gul'dan, right into a Call of Dreadstalkers to keep things flowing. And then by that time, you might have a procer coming in from your bolts. You can implode. I guess you're not going to have to maintain EP anymore, but it keeps things flowing. It's like, all right, cool. We're ramping into a big spell, and now you have to cast 3 Shadow Bolts. Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt. That's the problem. I think out of all 3 specs, like I said, Demonology feels the clunkiest. It doesn't feel bad necessarily. It just feels clunky. But once again, keep in mind, I'm just sort of reporting this to you guys. It is the very first iteration of Alpha. I'm just saying, if Blizzard was to take something away from this, like early testing with Demonology, obviously we need an interrupt. We need an interrupt here. But it'd be nice if we worked some form of Baleful Invocation. We don't even need the bonus Demon Fire damage. Just give us the shards back. Give us like, I'd take 3 shards, honestly. But just give us like a talent that is similar to Baleful Invocation, the Azerite trait, that we can straight up play as Demonology. So it feels much more fluent. I mean, having it baked baseline into the actual spell will be great. But, either way, that's really what I'm looking for. Besides that, Demonology is pretty much the same as it is on live. Not much really changes. I do expect changes probably to Demonology to some extent at some point. It's early alpha now. But Blizzard did say that they're relatively happy with Destro and Demo's toolkit, and they wanted to focus more on Affliction, which we can see Affliction got, the better end of the deal here in the very first wave of Alpha. But there's still plenty of time. Overall, as far as like my first day in Shadowlands, it's actually amazing. Like, I know it's Alpha, I know everyone's hyped for it, but like, I quested through all of Bastion. The zone is awesome. It looks amazing. Like, I have to say, I was least hyped for Bastion just because I like the more like Darkshore, Maldraxxus / Revendreth zones here. Bastion is amazing. I can't wait to get into these other zones here. They look amazing. This looks like a Burning Crusade classic map. It looks insane. It looks like almost like Shadow Moon Valley. It looks great. I'm so excited. The quests were great. The leveling experience is awesome. Really quick, interesting storyline. I'm probably going to do it a few more times on stream. Really good. Really, really, really impressed with the first iteration. This is actual alpha. This is the first iteration of Shadowlands Alpha. I'm very impressed with where things are as a whole with Shadowlands so far. Thanks for watching, dudes. I hope this video gave you a better look and understanding of how all 3 Warlock specs are performing currently in the very first iteration of Shadowlands Alpha. Like I said, I certainly feel Affliction got the best deal so far here, but I do expect some changes to Demonology and Destruction still. Demo certainly does need an interrupt and probably some kind of Baleful-esque trait back. And Destro, I don't expect a whole lot of changes to Destro, but there probably will be some somewhere to some extent. So yeah, once again, dudes, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to join me live on stream, there's a link to my Twitch right here. I stream 5 to 6 days a week. We are indeed in the very first wave of Shadowlands Alpha. Thank you again, Blizzard, for the invite. I am eternally grateful. Yeah, we stream 5 to 6 days a week. All of Alpha into Beta, into raid testing, into actual Shadowlands launch. So thank you so much, dudes. All my week auras, profiles, add-ons are available for you for free on there as well. Feel free to swing by, grab them, drop a follow while you're there, or swing by anytime to hang out. Have a good time. So thanks so much, dudes. I will see you all on stream soon in Shadowlands. Peace.